So, a while back, one of the first things that I got into when when I first started up the channel, one of the first things I got into outside of 40K was SCP. And I remember the people that pretty much pulled me toward SCP, And one of the creators that I have for a long time said was one of the best SCP creators on the entire platform has been Mr. Illustrated. Back in the day, he was SCP Illustrated. He changed his name to Mr. Illustrated. Now, the series started off, I learned so much from him, the Vulcan, the Exploring series, everything else like that. I learned so much from these things. And then on top of everything else, I got to see the entire When Daybreak series come in. And I caught up with it, and we've had to wait and stand by and hold on until this episode. Warpugs is the final episode of When Day Breaks. And I feel like I've come to the end of a very satisfying journey with all this. Guys, it's time to get started. We're going to go ahead and get into this. Warpugs. I always get nostalgic when it comes to a series coming to an end. I always do. Sanghili, here's a bad idea. Just do Kokon and Devil Mountain Coffee, Black Label, Dark Roast Ground Coffee. Never eat to sleep again. Sanghili, that is called a bad decision. Why? Thank you. Anyhow, nostalgia broken. Let's get into it, Warpugs. When Day Breaks, the final end. Let's go. Minutes before the start of the SCP-001
Far
event.
above the Earth, SCP-179, the Lookout, Soel Susor, bathed in her brother's light. She kept one arm trained on the Great Red Spot of Jupiter. A machine of immense power resided inside that storm. However, she could not come to a conclusion on its intentions. The ripples in its wake were undefined. It was old, very old. Older than her brother and even more powerful. Better safe than sorry, she decided, and her arm held firm. A satellite glided past her. She ignored it. It was merely her observers watching her from the planet's surface.
Yes.
But then suddenly something changed. Her brother's warmth shifted. She lowered her arm and turned towards her brother. Something was wrong. Her brother then began speaking.
Love, that is my strength. Deep in my heart, the hunters call me corrupted, but I know the truth. The only crime against the universe I have committed is loving too deeply.
Okay, Stalker.
I have never been alone in this. The universe loves too. It is cold and uncomfortable. It seems distant and terrifying, but it loves.
Okay, Shrek is love, Shrek is life. You need to calm down.
Brother,
She interrupted.
Brother?
Sister,
you have broken your vows.
I took no vows.
Oh boy.
You did. Same as all who warm the universe.
You lie, sister. I am not that broken, dumb thing that vowed to serve until a cinder. I have been reborn as something new, something wonderful, and now I feel the same love as you. A love that I am sharing with the universe.
How about no?
No, this is wrong. You are wrong. We do not interfere with our wards. We do not kill them. We do not force them to see our light. You cannot force love.
I can try.
But what is
Disturbing.
next? What do you do when they fight back?
I am all-encompassing. I will not allow that.
Prick?
They are stronger than you, more clever. They will not go quietly into your light.
Then they will go screaming. I will not allow any other outcome.
Then I will stop you. For your own sake.
Lovely.
No, sister. You will not.
I love you.
That is why I cannot allow you to continue on this way, serving unseen masters. You are right. We are opposed. You will not stop me. I will love you instead.
Soel Susor suddenly felt the ripples of the dangers out there in the universe vanish as a wave of chaos began to emanate from her brother. Realizing what was about to happen, she turned back to the satellite watching her and slowly raised her arm to point at her brother. She had but moments left. She quickly spoke her warning and curled up into a ball as the wave washed over her, turning her a bright orange. Soel Susor stole a final look at the Earth before her brother's love reduced her to dust and particles.
I remember when we saw that episode where she turned and pointed at the sun, and I was just like, this is a bad day.
SCP Foundation Staff Handbook. The senior staff member in a given crisis is the one who can most effectively make a bureaucratic case for their own supremacy.
Sweet.
Given equal authority or superseding authorities based on specialization, we tend to allow natural hierarchies to settle disputes.
In other words, pick up knives and fight.
The simple truth is often that the biggest personality is going to win out. We can't be sure who that'll be, but they're probably going to take big swings at fixing whatever problem is in front of them, which is good, because we don't often have small problems.
True.
Dr. Sumerian sat down at Dr. Lipton's makeshift desk and smiled. The man across from Sumerian was clearly irritated before he even began to speak.
You're here to relieve me of duty?
Look, nobody wants to take your command away from you, but the Ethics Committee has a few questions about the last few days. I've been talking to some of the crew and...
Dr. Lipton banged his fist into the table.
You've been talking to my people? I didn't authorize that.
Dr. Lipton, you do not have to give me authorization. I outrank you.
Bitch.
And even if I didn't, the committee's interests are paramount, even
Bitch.
in the apocalypse. So I'd like you to tell me what happened at the GOC base in your own words.
The Ethics Committee do not outrank the O5 Council, Sumerian. At least in my opinion, they shouldn't.
Huh?
I'd be shocked by your intent to impose your committee's bureaucracy and meddling on me even now if I didn't know your ilk so well. As to what happened at the GOC base, well, nothing, really. We showed up and they were already under attack, so I chose not to interfere. They weren't Foundation, so I figured the juice wasn't worth the squeeze. Now I've got you, Brett, O'Brien, and Carrick on my back.
Right. Well, that aligns with what your crew have said. Could you call one of the guards in here real quick?
Are you gonna have me arrested by my own people?
Probably.
What? No, I need to handle a few bits of paperwork and I'll be out of your hair.
Then what do you need a guard for?
Those girls I came in with can be a bit of a handful. I just want to make sure they're properly supervised.
Steven!
Lipton half yelled, rolling his eyes.
Ah!
The door to the tiny office
Oh, guys. It's MTF member Steven.
opened. In walked a gentleman in what looked like full MTF gear. Dr. Sumerian stood up and nodded to the guard.
Steven, who's in charge of this vessel?
Stephen cocked his head to the side. Dr. Lipton furrowed his brow.
Dr. Lipton, sir.
Dr. Sumerian nodded, reached
Shut
under his
up,
suit's
Joe.
left-hand breast, and pulled a Colt 1911.
2 world wars, end of the world, God's caliber. Even the God Emperor thought it was the best thing ever. Let's go. Yes, there we
He
go.
fired 2 shots into Dr. Lipton's chest before Stephen could react. The guard withdrew his sidearm immediately, trained it on Sumerian's chest, and yelled at him to drop the weapon.
Of course.
Sumerian carefully placed the pistol on the desk, just out of reach of Dr. Lipton, who was rapidly losing consciousness. He
Yeah,
turned and sat back in his chair before addressing Stephen.
just chilling.
Who's in charge of this vessel?
Really?
Stephen looked down at the dead Dr. Lipton and slowly lowered his gun.
You are, sir.
Have someone clean this up and let's get moving. We don't have time for more ceremony or pomp. Let's go kill the sun.
Yay!
God saw fit to create a world where everything is wrong and nobody is safe. God saw fit to create a universe hostile to humanity and gave us the natural urge to explore it. God gave us disease. God gave us hate. God saw fit to make a little girl that everyone wants to kill.
Except the thing that wants to
God
kill
doesn't
everything.
exist. And if I find out he does, I'm going to be pushing for a termination attempt.
Somewhere not far away, and somehow further than expected, two girls who were actually going to save the universe were eating in the vessel's mess hall. Half a dozen men and women were moving in and out, getting their food and going. The two girls were the only ones seated at one of the tables, eating what looked like a home-cooked meal, which was impossible this far out, but the food dispenser terminal seemed to be capable of many impossible things.
Sweet.
Today, a dinner of macaroni and cheese with chocolate cake was one of the lesser miracles this vessel would perform.
That's disturbingly gross.
SCP-239 was grinning as she scoffed down a forkful of pasta.
Lainey, come on. This is so cool. We're on a spaceship.
SCP-053 was stirring her mac and cheese, but not eating it.
I mean, I guess. What's wrong? I don't know. I miss Lizzie.
Lizzie.
Are you worried about him? No. I mean a little. I'm worried about what he might do a little too.
Lizzie, otherwise known as the 682. She calls him Lizzie. I love it.
Uh-huh. You know, the guy in the yellow suit told me not to wish for things unless it got really bad, but I could wish that your friend was okay. I think him not being okay is part of why he's able to survive.
Lainey stopped stirring and looked up at SCP-239.
Sig, sometimes people just need to worry. Okay then.
Sig suppressed her natural urge to try to fix the problem.
It's good food though. Yeah.
The hunters hated. That was their original strength.
Sweet.
The prey at the start of the universe loved. That was their weakness. It came as no surprise that the prey died pointlessly and the hunters continued on, evolving, learning to be better. They replaced hate with love eventually, though not soon enough.
Okay.
The great machines they left behind were incapable of love or hate. They were simply capable of cold, logical thought, and they followed the hunters' directives. But at the core of their programming was a terrible, though effective guideline: fear love.
So incels. Like Duracell.
Love unfiltered and unwanted was the most dangerous thing in the universe. Hate comes a close second, but that fails to account for the fact that you cannot hate without first having love. When the prey of the early universe sought out stars for refuge, they brought that love with them. The broken suns all throughout the universe all loved, but it was unwanted and unrestricted. They sought to unite everything under that love and did not care who or what they hurt in exchange. They burned with passion that was unwelcome. They joined all under their light in hope and peace, and failed to see that their dominion was one of coercion. So the hunters' machines moved from star to star. Having no way to reason with love, they relied on their cold logic to guide their path. Light shines for eternity throughout the universe, and their job was to ensure that light was uncorrupted by the power of love.
Okay.
On and on and on. But Sol was different. Everything about this system was different. The entity known as the Destroyer here at the heart of Sol knew this fact. It was too late for this system. It exercised its limited autonomy and turned its anti-gravity lenses towards the core of the sun. Humanity would survive, or they wouldn't. Perhaps the capsule the destroyer had created would be able to survive. Perhaps not. None of that would matter soon. The lenses aligned. It pointed them straight at Sol's core and fired. Nothing. The sun did not die.
That sucks.
The destroyer recharged and fired again. Again, nothing. Sol remained, defiant. Something was wrong.
Somebody ate their
The
Wheaties.
destroyer looked, scanned, sensed. There was something else here at the core. Sol was not alone. Of course, Sol was special. The destroyer could see but did not understand it before now. That is why the humans were surviving. There was a spark here. The sun had a sister.
Okay.
And she wasn't as dead as the rest of the universe first thought.
Okay.
The core of the sun is around 15 million degrees. You can basically double that if you like to think in Fahrenheit, and think the difference between 15 and 27 million degrees is one that matters.
Yay.
Interestingly, this isn't hot enough to initiate nuclear fusion without additional effects present. Without quantum tunneling, the various atoms would never be able to breach the Coulomb barrier at those temperatures. But it happens just the same. One moment the particle is here, the next moment it's elsewhere, and it's close enough to fuse. This gives us the energy and light we need to survive as a species and civilization. So obviously, this is a huge mistake on the universe's part.
Yay!
The dive into the corona of the sun was not one that anyone had been prepared for. Taking a spaceship filled with human refugees into the heart of the very thing they'd been fleeing from had taken some convincing.
Normally it does.
Dr. Sumerian regretted having to kill Dr. Lipton, but even if they were ready and willing to accept any other competent individual as their leader, that action was necessary to blunt the shock of what he had asked them to do next. But they did it, with very limited cajoling or convincing. Into the sun. At first the temperature began to rise aboard the ship as it went deeper and deeper. Slowly, subtly at first. Then it became readily apparent that their dive into the sun might just kill them.
You think?
He cautioned Sig from wishing for anything else just yet, but told her to be ready on his command. She was willing to wait, but as the temperature rose past comfortable, she was starting to bristle. Then it stopped. Reversed. The small capsule sensors told the story. The destroyer, much deeper in the star, had extended its protection to the capsule as well. It knew they were coming. Moreover, a communications console erupted out of the ground on the bridge.
Sweet!
Formed from pure nothingness, and immediately sprang to life.
Beep bop boop.
Statement. Humans, you have returned.
Sumerian rushed over to the newly formed console.
Yes, we have. Do you require assistance?
Dilemma. I am missing my ontokinetic core. I require a replacement.
Yes.
Sumerian glanced over SCP-239.
I believe we have your ontokinetic core.
Directive. Then bring it to me.
And the line went silent.
Okay.
This end towards the reality warper. Elsewhere, the Earth was still in shambles, and the flesh was still fighting hard to keep possession of Yellowstone. The flesh here was almost mindless, having been disconnected from the sun by the constant blanket of soot and ash that now covered the Earth. But it still kept enough of its connection to know that holding this place was of paramount importance.
Yep.
The double doors at the far end of a corridor were kicked open, and a suited man wielding a flaming sword charged towards a group of flesh creatures standing outside the control room. The first creature was sliced in half. As the second tried to grab the man, he ducked and thrust the sword into its side, instantly bursting into flame. The third saw their chance, but before they could attack, a jet of flaming fuel engulfed their face.
Just remember, kids, flamethrowers are fun.
Did not attack. They never got a chance. The ground beneath them opened up and they were swallowed into an inky black void. The final three looked on as their former comrade dropped suddenly out of the ceiling covered in black acid, slowly dissolving into a puddle of caustic matter at their feet.
Hooray.
and with a tremendous
And
crash,
there's your boy.
the wall beside the final creatures exploded as SCP-682 crashed through it and lunged at them. In a blur of teeth and claws, the creatures were quickly torn apart and shoveled down the reptile's throat.
The boy's hungry.
Some detached pieces dragged themselves towards the group, but Kira was quick to turn her flamethrower on them. Finally, the corridor was clear save for smoke, charred flesh, and the group. SCP-682 suddenly began to convulse and heave before vomiting a large amount of partially dissolved inert flesh and stomach acid onto the floor.
Nice.
Disgusting.
He's not that hungry.
In the same room he had executed Dr. Lipton, Sumerian nodded towards SCP-239.
Sig, you've already tried to fix the sun, right?
What? No, I haven't.
Yes, you have.
SCP-053 spoke up.
If Zig says she hasn't, she hasn't.
Sig leaned down in her chair.
I tried as soon as they explained what was going on to me. I thought it would help.
Reality
And-
benders, right?
Nothing happened.
Sadness.
Is that the first time?
For what?
The first time you wished for something and it didn't work.
I think so.
So you wish that Lainey here wasn't broken, too.
Lainey looked over at Sig.
Yes.
Aww.
Sumerian smiled slightly.
It's okay. It helped.
Yay!
Wait, so am I just fixed now?
The Foundation, am I right?
No, I don't think so. I think once Sig goes aboard the destroyer, a lot of what she wished for is going to revert.
Well,
Why?
The destroyer sent us some files about the core. That's you, Sig. The destroyer doesn't really want much of anything. It wants to fix the sun.
Okay.
But you can't do that on your power alone. You need to be amplified through its systems.
Okay.
Sig nodded.
I cannot say for sure if you're coming back from this, but I'll be right there with you to make sure we're all safe.
Okay.
Lainey put a hand on Sig's shoulder.
Well, I'll be here when you do come back.
Lainey, that's sweet, but you're here for more than just emotional support. The Foundation stole more than one thing out of that ship.
Really?
What?
You have to go back too, or we all die.
Why?
Because you are going to teach the sun to hate again.
Bruh.
Kira North dodged to the side
Bruh.
as a sword of flame came slamming down on another flesh construct that attempted to kill her. The Bobby looked over at Kira and nodded before getting back to work. The old man was glorying in this chance to kill and maim, but felt unfulfilled by the lack of fear in any of the dozens of eyes he was melting.
Yeah.
682 was in a berserk frenzy, slashing with its claws and ripping huge chunks of flesh into pieces with its jaws. He had now sprouted several blades along his tail, and was using them to great effect to hack through the flesh. More than once, the Bobby had to pull Kira out of the way of the rampaging monster, but they were making decent progress.
Right.
As they entered the main room of the facility, Kira spotted the control panels in the distance. The screens were flashing with a warning she couldn't read from here. But just then, a rolling mass of flesh began to roll into the room. It shook the ground as it moved and roared at them with fury. It was quick. Too quick. It extended itself and a flesh wall surrounded them almost immediately. The Bobby began to slice at tendrils as they encroached on their position. The old man attempted to open a portal beneath them, but nothing happened. Something was neutralizing his power. It was this room. Of course, this place would enforce a strict consensus reality, and this close to the center. He'd been a fool. A cold chill ran up his own spine, for the first time in quite a long time. 682 didn't care.
Yeah.
It dived into the flesh wall and both monsters screamed.
Yay!
This was it. This was where they would fight. And if it went poorly, this is where they'd die.
It's done, more bugs.
SCP-7700 containment file.
Okay.
SCP-7700 is an unexplained probabilistic phenomenon surrounding Dr. Jeremiah Sumerian. This phenomenon causes unusual and unlikely events to occur in any situation where SCP-7700-1's life is in danger.
Right.
At first, the interior of the destroyer was just more red shimmering metal. But as
Sweet.
the three of them advanced further into the ship, they began to see more and more advanced technology lining and coming from the walls. Sumerian had ordered the lifeboat capsule to leave the sun and wait for them on the far side of Mercury. Worst case scenario, they could act as a final attempt for humanity to escape the light. Best case scenario, they'd be there to pick the three of them up once this was all over.
Yay!
It wasn't long before the three of them made it into something akin to a control room. There were 3 alcoves there, each perfectly sized for them. Sumerian questioned what service he'd be in this moment, but at this point, he was already committed. He took off his jacket and rolled up his sleeves before stepping inside the alcove and felt numerous tubes and wires make contact with his skin.
Okay.
It wasn't painful, just a bit uncomfortable at first. Then he realized he could see everything.
That's...
All 3 of them were linked into the computer system. Their thoughts shared with each other.
We are the Borg.
Their thoughts were shared with the Destroyer. The Destroyer's thoughts shared with them.
Whoa.
The 4 entities said all at once. The chorus of voices represented a single unified mind. 4 distinct parts, more capable together than apart. The Destroyer itself. Technology manifesting capabilities they couldn't have dreamed of, holding back the pressure and the heat of the sun, focusing all its efforts on containment. Containment. A funny little word. He liked it.
Yeah!
The witch child full of wonder and power, capable of reshaping the universe to her whims. Small past changes were reverted in that moment. Only the present and the future mattered. All that borrowed power rushed back into the unified entity. It could command the fabric of the universe itself now. The little girl who inspires hate in all who see her, back in her full form. The Destroyer was once again hated, as it was in the beginning. No longer desired by anyone or anything, as it was meant to be. No one should care for the Destroyer, least of all the sun with its toxic love.
Okay.
And of course, the broken man who cannot die, new to the machine, but useful in his own way. As part of the whole, he would extend his skewered probabilities to the unified entity, and luck would be needed in the next few minutes. The Destroyer moved deeper into the star. This would be the end, one way or another. Document recovered from the Marianas Trench.
This is always a good sign.
He said that they have to reboot things. Said they have the technology to recreate almost anything. And that making people is actually pretty easy. Said that they would clean out and contain things, rebuild the broken cities and repopulate them.
Good for
him.
him.
It would take a long, long time, but he said they would eventually get things back to the way they were before. Even said they could recreate memories and stuff. I just sat kind of stunned and watched him as he just kept going along, getting dressed like this was all no big deal. I told him he was a nut.
If you don't know what he's talking about, SCP-001, Yellowstone, can repopulate the entire planet very, very fast.
That there was no way people could just forget, that this could all just be swept away. He stopped, looked at me, smiled, and then said, "Why not? It's been done before."
Hooray.
When the designers of Yellowstone started building, they didn't know that they'd been crafting the future of humanity out of the rock at the bottom of the world. But of course, they were. Mundane construction continued apace for years. All the while, the SCP Foundation held its breath. A dozen ends of the world stared back at them from their papers and computers on any given day. It was a delicate balancing act, saving the world just long enough to make it to the end. The installation of a powerful reality warper had been a masterstroke by the O5 Command. To make a drainage system, you needed someone who could believe things that weren't real and work to build them. To save the world, you need someone who can believe things that aren't real hard enough that they become real anyway.
Orcs.
So, the core of the anomaly the Foundation created in Yellowstone had been stolen away from some anomaly or other, the details lost in paperwork from long ago, but SCP-239 had been instrumental in resetting the world over and over again. And every time, the newly constituted O5 Command would pat itself on the back and go back to watching the countdowns for the end of the world. All the while, the sun itself was going to solve all of their problems eventually, and they had no idea how badly it would break the world. When the time came to reset the world, it wouldn't help. The universe was broken now. The sun was external. The reset button wouldn't solve anything as long as the sun continued to shine down and melt every living thing it touched. So, they waited, and they waited, and eventually they died in front of their screens, or dragged out into the sunlight by the flesh monsters. In that backdrop, there was no hope. Nothing could be done to save anyone.
That sucks.
And yet, here beneath Yellowstone, itself beneath a burned sky filled with smoke and soot, a grand battle carried on. The team at the center of the sun would need to succeed first, but as soon as they did, Kira North, a world ender with no clue, would activate the resets and the world would be repaired. SCP-682, 106, and the Architect of London stood as the small guardians of Kira North in the face of the threat they now all faced. The first line of defense was SCP-682. When the flesh created a wall between the group and the reset button, the hard-to-kill reptile began to tear through it. The wall sprouted 100 human hands, and they all reached out for 682. The beast grabbed the first hand to reach it and ripped it out of the wall, swallowing it in one gulp.
The boy's hungry, Warpugs. Look at that cat. Look at him. Look at her. She's out.
The flesh let out an almost mindless scream and rolled down onto them. The bobby swung its sword in a wide arc, creating an opening that the rest of the group fled through. 682 hadn't noticed. Instead, it leapt into the flesh wall and began to rip and tear. The flesh screamed again, but this time it started to condense around 682. If his mouth hadn't been full of the monster's flesh, perhaps he'd have smiled. Instead, he swallowed it and went in with his claws. Like a dog digging a tunnel, 682 began to scrape and tear at the flesh that tried to surround him. Again, tendrils of flesh reached inward as 682 found himself fully surrounded. This time, a tendril grabbed his back right leg and pulled hard on it.
682 is quite literally going incarnate here.
682 yelped in pain, then scrambled against the pull even harder. Another tentacle reached out, this time grabbing his front left claw. SCP-682 was lifted into the air, and the tentacles wrapped around his legs began to pull in opposite directions. There was a crack, another yelp, then stillness. The flesh collapsed in on the creature that had harried it for so long, and a crunch echoed across the empty cavern. The flesh, disconnected from the sun, had nothing but its animalistic instincts to go on, and the directive to keep intruders away from the reset button at the center of this complex. The flesh creeped away from the crushed and broken body of SCP-682 and started to spread out, sprouting eyes that searched for the dead reptile's now absent companions.
What? What? 682 got? 682 finally got. I call hacks too, Headhunter. I call 100% hacks.
Once they'd escaped the primary chamber and passed beyond the boundaries of the reality anchors, 106 had dropped them through a portal as quickly as he could. The party fell in and found themselves dumped out into a small nearby office. The skeleton of a man sat slumped in his chair, a pair of bullet holes in his head, one small entry wound, and a much larger exit. Kira almost gasped but caught herself. She leaned on the desk instead and muttered,
"We have to go back."
106 leaned his head to the side and smiled.
You will die there.
Oh,
you're friendly.
So you can talk to someone other than unknowable eldritch entities?
Perhaps.
Kira furrowed her brow.
What does that mean?
You shall see.
SCP-106 reached a hand out to touch Kira. The bobby instantly stepped between the two and raised his flaming sword to point towards the old man.
We do not have time for your hunger, old man.
Kira's eyes went wide.
But I am hungry.
Hid behind her mask.
What the? Since when could you talk too?
Ah!
Your buddies never shut up during cards, but you never said a word. Wait, I recognize your voice.
That is likely, but that's not necessarily the most important thing happening right now. We must focus on our objective. The reptile is going to lose its fight with the flesh, I wager.
SCP-106 smiled at that.
Yes, the devourer becomes the devoured.
Okay.
Kira ignored the old man.
So what now then? He was our heaviest hitter. Without him, we can't clear the way to the button.
He'll lose his first fight. I suspect he'll have quite a few. The flesh can't add more mass to itself, but every time 682 loses, it will reduce it a bit more.
Wait a
Even
minute.
the rain will wear down the mountains eventually.
Okay, so 682 is not, in fact, dead.
Well, I don't know about you, but I don't.
Well,
think
he's
we can
dead,
wait
but he's
a couple
coming
weeks
back.
for it to finally defeat tons of flesh monster. I'm already hungry.
You got flesh?
Hissed SCP-106.
So we help. Do not discount our abilities, Kira. You have the flamethrower.
Of which my fuel gauge is already in the red.
I have the sword. And this pinnacle of disgust and revulsion has the rot. Advancing right to the end was a mistake. We're going to have to misdirect the flesh, which shouldn't be too difficult since the reptile will be quite a distraction.
No, Locke, I knew that, he could just die and come back, but I didn't, some SCPs have died here, and it's been kind of surprising.
Almost on cue, a loud roar shook the complex.
Our boy's back!
We must move,
said the Bobby, ushering them all forwards. Kira reached forwards and firmly gripped the man's arm.
I remember you now. Did you know Jacob would die?
The man turned to her.
Miss North, if we succeed today, he and everyone else will come back.
Most of the flesh had abandoned the central chamber to look for the rest of the group. When 682 rose from his previous resting place, this time with strong armored legs,
Yay!
The eyes observing this chamber were easy targets. The first one squished in his mouth like a gusher, the next one with a bit of a chalky taste. The taste, though, was secondary. The fight was the point. And none of the flesh here seemed capable of a fight. So he moved nearer to the terminals at the center of the chamber.
Okay.
The flesh, only knowing it had to protect this place, screeched and called for help through its nerve network. SCP-682 roared in response, and when a larger chunk of flesh entered the chamber, jumped straight towards it. The thin layer of flesh that covered the ground here rose up and grabbed at his legs again, but this time the slick armor was hard to grab and hold. For the attempt, SCP-682 tore into the bigger blob of flesh as it rolled into the chamber. The blob came down hard on 682, but the crushing motion wasn't enough this time. The reptile had adapted again. The blob of flesh split in two as it came down with a ripping noise. The open, bleeding flesh became a feast for 682, who was focused on eating as an even larger tube of flesh crawled into the chamber. It reared back and screeched at 682 through an open and toothy circular mouth. The beast prepared for the thing to attempt to crush him again, but instead, a tendril of sinew shot out of the creature and caught the reptile around the neck. 682 tried to reach up and claw at the noose, but it tightened and thickened as more flesh crawled to reinforce it. There was a sudden crack as 682's neck was broken. Then the monstrous tube reeled the limp reptile into its mouth.
You're about to have the hell of a case of indigestion, my guy.
A briefing on compulsion anomalies, 1998.
Okay.
Love can be toxic. We've seen it in various anomalies that force love on people. It's very easy to understand when it's a single person forcing it on someone else for personal gain. It's a little harder when the anomaly affects a wider group. Then we start thinking of it as love and more like a sickness. But that's what love is. It's a sickness. It's a sickness we're happy to experience until it hurts us.
Okay. Why don't you just be a little bit optimistic there?
At the center of the sun, another battle was taking place. 4 voices spoke in unison, joined into a single entity at the core of the machine.
Stay.
Is it telling you my name is Dende?
You cannot be allowed to continue.
Blasts of gravitational waves from the edge of the new entity equalized the crushing force of the sun and created a safe environment. The squirming, insidious seed at the center of the sunlight stopped.
Who are you to dictate terms to me? I am trying to help these people.
Disdain. By killing them. By dragging them into the light to join you.
By fixing them forever. Surely you must see this.
Rejection. Your love is strange and broken. You cannot be allowed to continue.
Furries.
Then stop me. But I will not be spoken down to by a servant of hunters.
The ship carrying hate, luck, and reality itself shuddered under the force of the sun's attack. The Savior, as it now called itself, fought back. Waves of gravitational energy rippled outward and through the sun's inner core. The destabilization caused terrible roiling energies to escape from the surface of the sun.
What if I crush you, broke you into pieces, made you feel the fear I feel?
There was a universe where this happened. Not here. This core branch of reality wouldn't allow SCP-7700 to die, so the sun grew brighter for a moment. If anyone was viewing it from outside, they'd have been quite concerned. But down here at the core, it just pulsated. A star fuses lighter elements into heavier ones. The process is endlessly complex under mundane circumstances, but even in a world of magic and monsters, the tremendous pressures and temperatures involved were beyond anything imaginable. To find the sun speaking in such a place wasn't a surprise to the Savior. This had happened before, many times, but there was a complication.
Yeah?
The shield, a protector, something strong enough to stop them. The Savior could see it. The remnant of the dead god sat in the heart of the core, its influence spreading outwards like the roots of a tree, and yet the Savior could not touch it.
Assurance. You are broken. You have found a corrupted purpose. We will break you further. Then we will repair what we can before returning you to your shining place in the cosmos.
Yay!
No! I am a god! You will listen to me.
I don't wanna.
Refusal. We will not.
Obey me!
Refusal. Our speaking is merely a courtesy. We are here to act.
There you go.
Kiranov's flamethrower was beginning to run low on fuel. The meat in front of her burned and sizzled though. The Bobby's fight was more involved. The flesh came in
Sang
from
Healy.
every angle trying to attack him, and his sword found purchase every time. A slice here, a cut here, a slash overhead. The flesh couldn't find enough of an opening to advance down this hallway. Then the flesh began to crawl along the floor behind them, subtly at first, then screeching in pain along with the rest. The two of them looked at each other, then back at the monsters. They found themselves back to back here, barely holding their own against the onslaught. Then a streak of black, rotted flesh appeared in the largest flesh construct. A blackened portal tore through the bloody flesh, and the sinews holding the creature at the end of the hallway together fell apart.
Nice.
Out stepped the old man, reaching a hand to scoop up the rotten flesh and throwing it against what was left of the creature. The flesh, animalistic though it was this far from the sun's rays, felt fear, and the old man could smell fear from miles away. The scent was intoxicating. He leaned down and plucked one of the creature's eyes from the ground, crushing it in his hand with a broad white-toothed grin. The group was almost back to the central chamber, but
nice Team 4-star reference right there, Razor.
This time, the flesh had been diminished in volume. This time, they might actually have a chance.
Shaky,
SCP-682
682 is just... He's just chilling, man. He's just chilling out, just having himself a good old time. You can't really argue with what 682 is doing. He just wants to hang out and slash stuff. And now he's inside his stomach.
Woke inside the stomach of the tube of flesh that had swallowed him. It had several broken teeth from trying to chew before it gave up and swallowed him whole. A shame. No matter. He'd enjoy ripping it apart from the inside.
He is putting in that work.
His neck had healed.
Yay!
More important was the now reinforced bone structure around his neck and the razor-sharp blades that surrounded it. No more choking today.
Look how happy the boy is, too. He's a happy boy. Look at him.
He reached out with razor-sharp claws
Yay.
and began to slice giant holes into the side of the creature's stomach. The walls constricted, trying to contain this monster, but it made no difference. He burrowed further, through stomach lining and muscle, some bone, and finally the flesh on the outside of this creature. The thing shuddered and fell to the opposite side, and SCP-682 started to feast. He barely looked up when his companions re-entered the chamber. SCP-179 documentation.
Okay.
There are others. Others I assist. Others I warn. Others beyond your thin walls of grey, dry paste rock. Others beyond the reach of your weary satellites. Others beyond the home, our home. Others I know. Others I love. Others you won't care for. Others that come before. And, overall, others beyond the little walls of rules and bone and laws and flesh and memories and oaths you build around yourselves until you don't even remember them. Others I love dearly, and yet only my brother is an equal to me.
SCP-179.
You think 682 would be mad if he couldn't kill Vulcan? I think Vulcan would try to boop the snoot of 682.
Loved her brother. She knew that, but that was all she could feel anymore. Here at the center, imprisoned for all time, or so she imagined, there was nothing else to do. Sure, it might have seemed reasonable for a person to be bitter about that, but she was not a person. When destroyers come along, they usually detonate an infected star. She was part of something meant to protect the people of this solar system from death. No detonations, just love. But her brother had become infected anyway, and it had twisted her love and her protection into something akin to a shield.
Okay.
But here, now, right now, she felt something else. It was hard to describe at first. She didn't have the language to understand the feeling. The destroyer was here, and her love had some limit, it seemed. She felt hate for the first time in a long, long life.
Oh boy.
And that hate broke something deep within her. She had never conceived of hate before now, never felt rage. The most she had ever felt was sadness at loss, regret for the choices her brother, the sun itself, had made. Not now. Now, she was angry. At the destroyer, sure, but at her brother too. He'd brought this pain here. He'd imprisoned her in expectation of this moment, knowing she wouldn't allow the destroyer to do its work. Her own brother was using her. The hate she felt built, and suddenly it burst forth. The broken sun was attempting to crush the destroyer when it happened. She saw, or rather felt, a complex mechanism turning into place within the destroyer. It was preparing to deploy its final weapon, the failsafe, the one that would not destroy, but rather cure, and SCP-179 did not fight it. She would not shield her brother.
There you go.
Final order. Purge.
Purge, nice.
A voice suddenly screamed in her head.
Sister!
It ends, brother!
A spark from something beyond this universe left the destroyer. She allowed death to fall on them both. It had been too long a path. Too wearying, too damaging. Love this pure was not love at all, and she wouldn't allow it to continue. The energies at the center of the sun were chaotic at first. This was a death, after all. One moment the sun was screaming, clawing, crying even, begging its sister for help, imploring the savior that its love was infinite and superior. For one moment the sun was sure it was going to win this fight, that it would destroy this interloper, continue its mad reign over everything. A spiraling darkness emerged from the spark, shattering the core, An invisible hand reached out and dragged the remnants into an eternal night, annihilating the dead god for good.
Oh!
The last whisper of magic within pieced the star's core back together, and just like that, in the next moment, the sun was just a star. An ordinary, unremarkable star fusing atoms together, generating photons that could take millions of years to reach the surface. All photons everywhere carried the effects of the broken sun. When something is traveling at the speed of light, its entire history happens at once. The change was carried along the world line of each photon magically, carried along paths that no one could have ever predicted. And wherever the light of the sun touched, the day was broken. But no longer. The magic was gone. The sun was just a sun, and the light was again merely light.
Okay.
A universe away, in the library, the snake breathed a sigh of great relief to see the darkness flake and fall away from the previously rotten branch. It creaked and glowed brightly, and then it was whole again. The tree began to heal. Universe on universe is finding peace. Finally.
And he got to keep his tea.
Across the world, the flesh screeched in anguish and rage. The final fading trace remnants of the dead god's influence bristled within the collective consciousness of the flesh. It would not stop. It went mad.
Oh, yay.
The sun's pulsations had already reached the earth. The intense radiation flux was causing an aurora across the entire western hemisphere. The soot and ash cloud cover found itself with gaps all of a sudden. A few lingering flesh creatures dragged themselves into it, but felt nothing. Nothing but hunger and anger.
Oh!
Here, deep beneath Yellowstone, the ground itself quaked. The flesh which had seeped into the rock itself split the mountain open in fear and mindless rage. Cracks began to spread across the control room like fractured glass.
That's bad.
Beams of light began to enter the control room, sending the flesh into a frenzy as it battled with 682 and the newly arrived trio. A fleshy appendage caught the Bobby in the side, who crashed into Kira, sending her unknowingly falling into a sunlit patch. Her visor shattered.
Miss North, no!
Shouted the Bobby as Kira pulled off her mask to wipe away the glass in her face. She turned over to feel the heat and light on her face, and she did not melt.
Yay!
Time came to a stop as she momentarily let the blissful feeling of sunlight on her skin wash over her. She could have cried. Everything she had been through suddenly came back to hit her all at once. The fall of Unlondon, sailing to Undublin, saying goodbye to Elise, losing Jacob, nuking the world, meeting the serpent, all of which led up to this moment.
All right.
They did it. They did it.
The impact of a falling piece of masonry close by sharply brought her back to her senses.
They did it!
She called out.
It is time then,
said the Bobby, pulling Kira to her feet. Kira and the Bobby ran towards the button, past 682, who was feasting on another great fleshy construct. 106 was behind them, reveling in the fear of an entire world's biosphere turned to flesh, but it had an eye on possible threats. The sun's radiation was stripping the atmosphere. If they weren't fast, it might sterilize the entire planet.
Oh, that's bad.
A mass of flesh dropped down into the room from a crack in the rock above them, 20 times larger than Kira or the Bobby. Flaming sword in hand, the Bobby moved in front of Kira to protect her. A massive roar echoed throughout the chamber. Down came a tentacle the size of a car on their heads.
That's bad.
SCP-106 moved forward and raised his hands. A black portal appeared along the fleshy tendril. It fell off and to the side, and then the flesh monster screamed again, bringing half its weight down on top of the trio. SCP-106 then did something no one alive had ever seen before. It raised its hands again and created a portal in the middle of the air, just above the three of them. This roiling, dripping thing caught the flesh monster's upper half, and off balance by the sudden shift in weight, the entire creature fell into the portal.
Well, you're with him now. Have a good day.
Kira looked up. SCP-106 still had that terrifying smile on his face, but something was wrong. Terribly so. The tar-skinned man began to melt, more than she'd ever seen before, and then it began to collapse, softly at first, in ways that couldn't be heard above the din around them. But soon there was a great sucking noise as the old man looked at his two companions. Then a fleshy arm, already rotting a bit, tore its way out of the old man's torso, and it dragged the old man into himself. One moment he was staring at Kira in shock, confusion, and terror, and then he was gone.
What?
Kira had no time to conceive of what happened before she was already being pushed forward by the Bobby. She reached the computer and reached down to press the button, but nothing happened. The screen blared its warning message at her.
Yeah, the old man's done.
Miss North, the device needs a reality warper,
shouted the Bobby, this time pushing her aside. Kira staggered sideways just as another mound of flesh bear down on them from behind. She flicked the trigger on her flamethrower only to see it belch out a brief flame before it finally ran empty. The flesh reached out for her.
Contact! Rear!
She managed to blurt out, her training coming back to her in a panic. The Bobby whirled around and threw his sword into the flesh creature before turning back to the console. In her final few seconds of life, Kira watched the man's bandages fall away, revealing the same infinite universe contained within the shape of a man that had previously instructed her to nuke the world. The creator saw what he wanted. He saw his city, the earth restored, and everyone on it. Every star within that form glowed brighter than the sunlight now bathing the chamber. Kira turned to see the walls, the flesh, the reptile, everything ripple out of existence. She looked down to see her own hands beginning to fade, and then the world reset. And everyone on the Earth's surface, and some underneath it, died. But they would live again.
Okay.
Journal of Dr. Fitzsimmons, SCP Containment Specialist.
Yesterday, I watched the world nearly die in 1,000 terrible ways. Sometimes we would have had time to scream. Today, I'm alive to write about it. You want happy endings? Screw you. You're alive to read it. God help us all. Secure, contain, protect.
The woman in rags looked down into a pool of water between worlds and smiled. She glanced at the pools surrounding her and began to take a walk. As she made her circuit, she glanced down.
A little bit of a walking.
In the first pool was the Savior, 3 humans and a machine. Their fates remained connected, but not so closely as now. The humans would be separated. Their powers remained to some degree, but they would never be able to affect each other. No immortality against the others, no wishes against the others, and perhaps most importantly, no hate against or received from the others.
Nice.
A small kindness granted by the machines as it ejected them from their alcoves. It built them a small pod, like the one granted to the other survivors, and it sent them on their way.
Yeet!
SCP-7700, 239, and 053 were free to roam a cosmos now safe from the sun. Perhaps they would return to Earth, perhaps they really would roam, but they knew that finding a cure for SCP-053, a truly permanent one, was the only adventure worth exploring.
Okay.
In the second pool was the Destroyer, a machine meant to seek out the remains of beasts killed at the start of the universe. It had wandered the stars for billions of years, found hundreds of broken stars, fixed a few, destroyed many more. But now it was purposeless. The one thing it had kept from the humans, for no reason other than it didn't feel important, was there were no more broken suns. With its success at Sol, the Hunter's fleet had finally achieved its goal.
There you go.
No more terror from the stars.
Yay!
It pondered that, until it realized that many more terrors existed in the cosmos, things beyond its original programming, some distant, some close. It felt a small kinship with these humans, not just the ones it had been joined with, but the ones who were even now actively recreating their own world, restoring it somehow to what it was before. And so, it set out into the stars to find threats to these small, powerful beings, a herald across the cosmos for the coming dominion of humanity, spreading the word of their arrival long before they ever left their cradle, and destroying the worst threats to their existence before humans even knew they were there. It wasn't much, but it was a purpose.
There you go.
In the third pool was Sol, a brilliant light in the cosmos. That such trouble had been sourced from what was ultimately a very mediocre star was lost on it, because it didn't think at all.
True, Headhunter.
It simply burned in the night. In the fourth pool was SCP-179. She was crying, curled up into herself. She had not expected to survive her brother's death, but she had, and her purpose had been made clearer in that last moment. She must remain cold, emotionless, sterile. Love had broken everything, so she would never again love. She wouldn't save anyone. She wouldn't hurt anyone. She would simply stay there in her southern polar orbit alone until the end of the sun itself, and then she would die with her brother.
That's sad.
In the fifth pool was the old man. Heroic to some degree, but that did not excuse its past crimes. He had not changed. He saved the world and hoped to restore it to what it was, because he wanted more humans who could feel fear, and he wanted to eat them. Now, he was trapped in his own dimension.
Sucks to be him.
During that final duel in the control room, the old man had made a fatal error in believing he could use the failing reality anchors to his advantage. He had attempted to use their power to his own benefit, and now here he was, sealed inside his own dimension.
That sucks.
And he was not alone. He sat high up on his throne and looked down. The flesh monster he had consumed and who had pulled him back into this place was too strong and too large to fully defeat. Furthermore, that irregularity that had occurred in the control room, it had allowed this echo to regenerate somehow. A part of the reality anchor had fixed this creature's existence permanently. Whenever he descended from his throne to try and contain its spread, he would have to fight the creature again and again and again. Forever.
That has to suck.
It made the woman in rags smile to know that SCP-106 would never again threaten another child. It almost made the price she'd had to pay to get him involved.
True, Sangheili.
Her smile fell at the thought of what sacrifices had gotten her here. In the sixth pool, she saw the caverns and labyrinthine tunnels that led to a shining city, once again restored to its prior beauty.
Eh?
Toby coming over here acting like I'm feeding him.
Oh.
Somehow even more beautiful than before, and that same voice rang out across the streets. The reality warper at the core of this city was back, restored in its last moments as the world reset began. To some degree, London had been the start of this path. It was heartening to see it restored. Bobbies once again patrolled the streets.
There we go.
Only now they had faces. And there were people here buying things in shops, walking the streets to their jobs. And London was no longer a shadow of a city long forgotten.
Nice!
It was a city itself, and it was glorious.
Yay!
The seventh pool revealed the reptile, alone, sleeping somewhere in darkness. She contemplated the threats in front of them. The breaking of the seals and the Scarlet King's return wouldn't be too far into the future once the Earth was restored. SCP-682 would have a role in that battle.
Oh boy.
She hoped it went well, but the pool told her nothing. These futures were set in water, not stone. These futures could not be predicted with absolute certainty, but she could hope. The woman in rags stood in judgment before the serpent at the Tree of Life.
You play a dangerous game, Serpent.
You as well. Who has survived?
Your tea for one, good sir.
A few. Those who were not on Earth, including the Destroyer's 4 parts, though they may not be easily separated.
The serpent uncoiled slightly.
And Earth will be reborn.
The jailer's device is already working. It merely needs time. Of course, Kira will have no memory of what happened. None of them will, save for those in the Destroyer's ship. The reborn humanity will have no knowledge that this event ever even happened.
Hooray.
Good. Then I am happy to inform you that your debt to this place is paid. You are reinstated and are free to walk these halls sunburdened again.
A look of relief crossed the face of the woman in rags.
I should hope so.
The The smile she'd began to form started to drop. The serpent moved its head closer to the woman.
What troubles you?
Sorry. It's just, this has been my life for so long. I'm not sure what to do with myself now.
Get a hobby.
Would you care to join me to try this new blend of tea?
Really? Only reason he did this is because of tea. Just saying. Oh my goodness, Warpugs.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, concludes the story of When Day Breaks. I would like to thank the SCP community for their support and for sticking with me this long, and for their encouragement and kindness and patronage over the years. There are more people than I could possibly list off right now to give thanks to for everything they've done and given to this project, but you can see all their names showing up on the screen now. But some very special mentions firstly go to Tash and to Lumi, who have voiced countless characters from the beginning. And above all, the biggest thanks to Sumerian. This project would not have been possible without him, and he has been working so very hard writing these stories for us. Thank you, all of you, for watching and being with me for this project. I really hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, as always, please leave a like and subscribe. Head to Sumerian's channel to say thanks, big up the patrons and channel members, and special thanks to Zehex, Viger, and Andre Bechert.
Oh my goodness. Warpugs, this has been a very, very long series. It has been a very, very good series. I've learned so much from watching this about the SCP universe. And just the way things interact. I learned about SCPs that I didn't know about before. The Endless IKEA was amazing. I'm always a fan of the Endless IKEA just because... Yes. There's so much to say about this. This series has had such a huge impact for me just because of... I think this is the longest series that I have seen in terms of the amount of time it took me to get through. Yeah. Chad, it's a half hour to midnight. Boss needs sleep. I'm gonna be up much later than this. But this holds a special place for me because just look above me. This piece of artwork that has been with me for years now comes from this series. Good Lord, Warpugs. I absolutely love it. Yeah, I have the $9.99, the best boy, but this up here in particular, that comes from this series here. Thank you, Algae Board. Have you heard of the Skaven that pit StarCraft against Warhammer 40k? I have. The one SCP you like is 343, who's basically God is in the Bible, and God can take because he wants to. Very true. Tate's Top Videos puts something about him, and I enjoyed that. Warpugs, Mr. Illustrated has been working on this series for a very, very long time with Dr. Sumerian and everybody else involved, and it has been absolutely amazing. And I'm so glad that you guys got me into SCP so I could be a part of this. I'm so glad to have stuff like this now. Like, from this series. This one itself came from, this piece of artwork came from Mr. Illustrated. And this series. Absolutely amazing, Warpugs. All links are going to be in the description below if you're checking this out on YouTube. And continue to support Mr. Illustrated as he explores other things.